we go. Welcome back to another Habs Hump Day show with the hockey coach, Coach Frenchy, directly for the beautiful country of the Canadiens on amazing, great Wednesday night, December 10, 2025. Hopefully, an amazing, great week. You recover from the disaster, nightmare, whatever you want to call it, of the last of the Montreal Canadiens by the score 6-1. And of course, and all the different news around the team in the last 24 hours make the social media really hot about the Montreal. Meanwhile, I'm watching the Laval Rocket, and the winning went out by the score 4-3. I don't know what's going on. They gave 3 goals and only 13 shots. So it looked like you have some kind of problem on the side of the goaltending situation of the Montreal Canadiens pipeline. For the fact, a lot of prospects are looking good for the goaltending and Montreal prospect like Volunkin, you have Quentin Miller, you have Cournoyer, and many others have a great success in NCAA. But honestly, does not affect what's going on with Montreal right now. And of course, we're going to be back tomorrow night for the game between the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Montreal Canadiens. And Friday, we're going to do the game. Laval Rocket returning on the ice. We're going to do the game live at 7 o'clock p.m. So don't miss that game. Right now, it's going to very quiet night in NHL. Only 4 games, but a couple of good games to watching. The Rangers Blackhawks 0-0 at the beginning of the second period. And then we have the Red Wings play the Flame at 8:30. 9 o'clock, Panthers Mammoth. 2-team Red Wing Panthers in the Atlantic Division. And then at 10 o'clock tonight, the Kings, they are in Seattle Kraken. Again, the team where they are struggling, the Kraken, the last couple of games. And we're going to give you all the update when RJ will be in the house the next couple of minutes. But before we start the show, we want to welcome everybody. Don't forget, please, to subscribe, click on the like. And, of course, big game, big save by Kokkanen, by the way. A special night tonight on the, of course, the Wednesday night we are with Marko, but we have a special guest. We did the same for the last couple of weeks. Very busy with his new job, everything, and glad to having aboard with us tonight. They are ready to talk about your Montreal Canadiens, le Bleu Blanc Rouge, le Tricolore. They are here. Mr. Marko and Mr. Frank are in the house tonight.
Frank, sir, welcome back. We really missed you. Great timing to join the show again after a fun game last night. When we were talking about having you back on the show, I was hoping it would have been under more positive circumstances. But listen, we have lots to cover anyway. So things are well, man. It's good to see you. Happy to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys. Glad to be back. Like you said, not the homecoming you'd like after such a game, but such is life of the Montreal Canadiens fans, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely right about that for sure. Marko, what's going on since we saw you last week? I think it was last Thursday, maybe something like that.
Yeah. So, working on some projects, doing a couple things, definitely following. So tonight, Coach, as you know, so to just refresh anybody that's not familiar with the format of our Habs Hump Day show that we do. So as we talked about at the beginning of the year, we identified certain key performance measurements that we thought it was going to be important for Montreal to hit in order to be competitive throughout the year. As we promised throughout the year, once every couple of weeks, we kind of come out on this show and we kind of, take a look under the hood and see how is Montreal trending on those key performance indicators. So we're going to be doing that today, Coach. We're going to take a look back. Last time that we did this, a lot of our little speedometers that we're going to look through were in the green. Things are looking pretty good. So, stay tuned to see where we're at this week. It's definitely some trends. So happy everybody can be with us. We'll be kind of going through those metrics. So curious to see kind of what everybody thinks of how Montreal is trending right now.
You're absolutely about that. I can wait to see all the graphic and all conversation we got tonight. And of course, with Frank gave us a little bit more what's going on. First of all, we welcome everybody. Paul, welcome back. Eminem, Victor, and Mr. Avon is in the house. In our tab, Billy. And then we have RJ Calabro with all the news. Ovidio, and then Standerman. Welcome back. Nolan, welcome. First time here. Stephen from Sweden back in the house. PLW, go with Jones tonight. PLW, good luck. Run with Kings, moderator. Guy, of course, he's with us, with Billy. And then we have, let's see, we have many others. LDP knocked the door. Welcome back, LDP from, of course, Newfoundland is in the house. Nicolas from Sherbrooke, de retour avec nous ce soir, mon Nicolas. Merci beaucoup d'être avec nous, mon ami. Nicolas, hopefully you're doing well. So that's all. Everybody is ready. We're going to jumping. A2 knock the door. Welcome, A2. Thanks also with us. Enjoy the rest of your night. I appreciate a lot. Let's see what we got here. First of all, we do at the beginning. And of course, Frank is going to talk about his comments, but we do the headlines, and Marko have one. I have one also. So, Marko, you're going to start with yours. And the first one is Abstanic, Mr. Marko.
Yeah. So we have our core management team here in order of height. We have Martin Saint-Louis, Kent Hughes, and Jeff Gordon. On a sinking ship, it kind of reminds me of the ship that you see from Coach. Of course, you've seen Forrest Gump. You're an expert on movies, so not unsimilar to the Bubba Gump Jenny boat, maybe that's after the hurricane. So sinking ship for the Montreal Canadiens right now. Lots of issues, which we'll cover today. So listen, I think this is the first time this season that I've stayed pretty positive throughout most of what we've seen so far, but now we're really starting to see some things really starting to pile on, and for the first time I'm starting to get a little bit more nervous about whether they're going to be able to kind of really kind of keep everything together here and stay in the hunt if things don't turn around. So listen, it's not, I'm not talking about the overall plan. I think we all understand that I'm still very confident of the overall direction and and the overall stability of the organization. But in terms of this season, there's some things that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight. There's just some things, that are just not going their way, right? Compared to last year. So last year they were pretty spared by injuries for most of the year. None of us really thought goaltending was going to be an issue, to this extent, anyways. Maybe you could assume maybe there'd be little drops here and there. But if you told me that they would be calling up Jacob Fowler, in December, I would have probably said there is more likelihood that they would be using the same Zamboni driver that beat the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple of years ago than them calling Jacob Fowler. So things not looking very good, Coach. Lots of things, we're going to cover it tonight. But listen, I haven't completely lost all hope here, but it's definitely a bit of a sinking ship. Comme on dit en français, les tuiles continuent à tomber sur leur tête, right? Things just continue to kind of escalate or kind of pile on here. So I don't know do you guys feel the same way? I know I was pretty positive. I could see, Coach, your tone has changed a little bit after some of the games. You were pretty upset after that St. Louis game. Frank, are you kind of there too? Are you a little bit more conspicuous after what you've seen over the last couple of days?
I will say I share the sentiment, but there is a very strong familiarity with what we saw last year.
Okay.
They had a very similar situation last year where right around this time of the year, before the Christmas break, they had, a decent start, a decent stretch at some point in the early part of the season. And then by November, they were basically a lottery team. And Primo was not doing the job. Because of that, they were overplaying Montembeault, who looked tired and started to look bad at times. And so they had to call up Dobesh right around the Christmas break. So it feels very much like the Groundhog's Day for me. So I'm a little hesitant to feel like it's all doom and gloom and the season's going down the toilet because they were able to sort of, right the wrongs and steer the ship in the right direction with a little electroshock therapy from a rookie goaltender last year. So I'm curious to see if it has the same effect this year.
So the only thing, Frank, I would say there is, like I was mentioning, injuries, right? They were pretty healthy throughout most of this year. And so this, I share your, I wish I shared your optimism, like there are some parallels for sure, but Coach, what do you think? Are you kind of that stage too, like of not a stage of mourning, but a little bit more of a stage of, reality might be kicking in here, that if things don't turn around quick, that we could see some real problems for them making the playoffs?
I think they are right now jeopardy to make the playoff for sure. Compared from last season was something where in December, what happened is they got Patrick Laine back in the lineup, and then they got the Alex Carrier trade. Meanwhile, at the same time, you had Tobesh come back and then changed the transfer the Canadiens Montreal after a really difficult start of the season last season. This year is the real difference. The injury changed completely the destination at the end for the playoff for me. And with the situation of the goaltending, it's more alarming. And you don't have a lot of solution. You don't have anybody come back right now to tell you, oh, this is going to be like change completely everything. So I think that this is going to be hard for them for the rest of the season. And then the only thing can handle everything better, the outcome will be better, is this way, where the standing is so close. Every day, if you check the standing today and then tomorrow you'll check again, you said, wait a minute, I maybe turn the newspaper on the wrong side. You know what I mean? Like at the top, at the bottom, and then the bottom at the top. That's another problem, I think, it won't be helping the Montreal Canadiens. That said, I think this season, and this was like last year, the expectation was not there, right? You had no expectation. It was a rebuilding team, and you make two big steps last season at the end when you make the playoff. So this year the expectation was maybe the same, where you said, "Oh, we did the playoff. We should return this year." And I think this is where we are maybe on the wrong side of the situation, where we're still the same projection team, right? Where we still a rebuild team, we're still a young team. We're still on the period of the development, evaluation, everything like that. And it'll be okay if we do one step backwards, and then refine everything, reset everything next season. It's just expectation. I think they are different for different people, and that's what we are tonight with that different mindset about the team. But not the Zenic yet. But I think the Montreal need to, everybody have to be minimum calm down about what's going on. We're going to talk about this tonight. Meanwhile, the Blackhawks take the lead 2-0 against the Rangers, and the Red Wings take the lead 1-0 against the Flame. The Brinkat is hot recently on that one. So this is a bit, I don't know if you want to add something before we move on an amazing, great headlines I have for all of you tonight.
No, I'm eagerly anticipating to see what you got here, Coach. Let's go for it.
I did a lot of search. I consulted many people, guys, and I said, you know what? I think that's the right things to do. Just stop the puck. That's it. Just stop the puck. That's not complicated, everything right there. And I think if we stop the puck, I think we fix 50% of the problem we have right now. And it's not negative, or it's not about point anybody, but right now we are 31st of the 32 save percentage. I know you said save percentage, I think it was you in our tap or PLW, I'm not remember, but still we are at .870. The Edmonton are .869. And I Marko, you follow more other team. Review call, no goal for the Chicago, offside at the blue line, I believe. So 1-0 Ranger, Blackhawks. When I said that is like, when you talk about Edmonton, the only thing we hear every time, for me, it's the goalie all bad. The goalie all bad. That's the problem, the goalie all bad. it's rare. They talk about the system on knock block or the defensive zone coverage or the defenseman is the biggest problem. We only hear about Picard and Skinner. Here in Montreal, we don't talk too much about the goaltender. We talk about the coach right now. We talk about the system. We talk about fun things. But I think right now it's the goalies. Goalies right now, last night was like, yeah, listen, you need big save at some point. We don't get from the goalies. And I think this is a major problem right now for Montreal Canadiens. That's the reason you get a call out. We'll talk about this. But that's my headline is simple, guys. Just stop the puck. And when I coach, okay, Frank and Marko, I don't know goalies. You know,
it's voodoo.
as a coach,
goaltending is totally voodoo. Yeah,
it was not my where I'm good. I would just tell them before the the meeting, whatever. I said, just look, I don't know how you do it, but just stop the puck. That's it. If you stop the puck, I can take care about the rest. But if you cannot stop the puck, I cannot help you. So I said, go in the blueprint and stop the puck. Deep, front, side, I don't know, your head, your glove, your blocker, your pad, I don't care. Just stop the puck, and that's pretty much what I can do. So that will be the same thing we said to Tabesh right now and Montembeau. Stop the puck, and that's it. So I don't know if you want to add something, Frank, about this, but that would be my easy, simple tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been good. Like, Dobesh had some moments there. Like, he had a hot start, but since, he's cooled down for sure. Montembeau's just simply never looked good the whole season, except maybe against Vegas. So there's really, to me, a big difference here. If you're looking, like, compared to last year where the biggest difference lies, I think that's where it's at. Montembeau used to have great save above expected metrics. He was getting those hard saves. He was giving a chance for his team. He even probably propped up. Like, you could argue that Montreal could have a shot at Leo Carlson or Fantilli if Montembeau was not playing the way he was playing the last few seasons. So I agree. Like, the goaltending has been subpar. There are a number of reasons why this team is struggling so far. So it's not all because of goaltending, but it's definitely a part of that.
Yeah, and Coach, there is one piece of analytics that we're going to share later. I sent it to you. I'm assuming we have it later, but if you look at the goals expected, for the Montreal Canadiens, the goal differential and the difference in the goal differential and the goal differential expected. So you can see that goaltending is an issue for sure. Like, there's a lot of evidence to show that. To put it very simply, Montreal is a little bit underneath, like about mid in the NHL when it comes to expected goals differential, maybe 17th in the NHL, but they're way at the bottom in terms of save percentage, right? So it's a little bit of both, but if I had to pick the biggest burning fire right now, it's for sure the goaltending, for sure.
Yeah, definitely about that. Of course, when we talk about this, was just like, keep this simple. I don't want to get too complicated and sell what we have to talk about this tonight. Red Wings scored a goal, guys, 2-0. Axel Sandin Pelika scored a goal. The Brinket got an assist. Kane have 2 assists tonight. 2-0 against the Flame after the Flame have a really good stretch the last couple of games. I think they have 7-3 or something like that in the last 10 games. All right now, struggling. And we'll see how they're going to bounce back tonight. Again, the Detroit Red Wings. Let me check something, guys. Oh, it's only 2 goals the first 6 minutes of this game, by the way. And
early.
I don't know if it's wolf between the pipe, but we'll see what happens this. We'll move on, and I want to talk about this. I think people come here for the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to jump in there. If we have something about the headlines, we're talking about NHL, going to come back a little bit later. And honestly, I'm going to jump in right there, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But the Montreal Canadiens called up Owen Beck, Jacob Fowler, and Adam Engström. So what do you think about that 3 players called up? Is it you agree, disagree? Are you surprised? So Frank, going to start with you. The people in the chat comments, because we're going to interact with you. When I have two guests like them, where they can talk a lot about the situation, I can check talking with you guys in the chat. So pick it up. Any statement you want to talk about that situation, let me know. And of course, going to start with Frank. What do you think about that? Dramatic call up, and usually, Frank, you follow Montreal Canadiens. You write for the Montreal Canadiens. Usually, a call up happening for the team is usually the morning, between 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock the morning, and then you hear that, and then you report that on your everybody report that, but that's rare. Happen after the game. Something have to be really upset the management to do that, or they heard something they knew we did not know, realize that today. So let us know what you think about that call up.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the timing. I know that Evans is now reported to be like absent on his own terms, so there might be something around that, like some sense of emergency, maybe. I'm not sure. Ultimately, Fowler, I think, is the electroshock that this team probably needs. I'm sure we'll talk about it more later on, but goaltending, we just said it, hasn't been great. So maybe it's time to try something different. Last year they tried with Dobesh instead of Primo around this time, and it gave the proven effect. So there's nothing wrong with trying this out. I will say I am surprised that they haven't called up Samuel Blais, now that we can say it in Quebec. I feel like this team has lacked like truculence in the bottom six. And this is a guy you have. This is a guy you picked up on waiver. This is a guy who's doing well in the AHL. So yeah, it's strange to me that they went with a guy like Beck. So I don't know. I think there might be a situation where they're trying to see where some of the kids are at. You have to know that Can't Use is working the phones. You have to know that they're trying to improve the team in some way, the same way that they did the Baron for Carrier trade last year around this time, if I believe it was in November, right? The Carrier trade, early December or November, somewhere like that. So yeah. I'm surprised. So maybe it's because they want to give a little more look at some guys like Engström. Davidson is still there, I believe, or he's not being sent down, is he?
Nice, still there, yeah. So I can
so
clarify,
there's a
like,
bunch of
so yeah. So for Evans, just to be clear, so he went to Calgary to get like some type of second opinion on a foot issue that apparently he's been managing for quite some time. So he's not going to be in the lineup. They haven't ruled him out versus the Rangers, though. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he went to Philadelphia. Yeah, he's in Philadelphia.
Yeah, okay, sorry, but you're right.
Yeah. So, so he's kind of like when Matthews went to Germany last year, for to get like a second opinion or something. So, I think that's probably for those who are wondering why they didn't call up Belay. That's because they need somebody to play center because they're going to be short of center. So, Beck is probably the best call up option there, right? So Jake Evans, we'll have to see what the diagnostic is going to be with him, like with his foot or whatever lower body injury that he's been managing. So for those of us who have been, and with good reason, like not knowing that context, you can be a little bit critical of how Evans had been playing, even since the beginning of the season. I don't think he's been, he hasn't been super effective in my opinion. So maybe that's a little bit more context there. For Engström, I think it makes sense. They're going on a 2-game road trip. So you want to go there with at least 7 defensemen. Based on kind of the performance last night, you wonder maybe if Struble might be, for the first time in a while, be the one that's in jeopardy of maybe taking a seat. And maybe we get to see, we know that Engström, even though he's a left-handed left shot, he mostly plays on the right. So maybe that's something that we see, a combination of Leighton Hudson and Engström on this road trip. So we'll have to see. So to me, those two make sense. In terms of Jacob Fowler, we're going to dig into that. Listen, like I don't, in the short term here, I get it. I don't believe that you can ruin a young goaltender by just having him come up and play a couple games here and there. I think that's fine. The real thing that I am be concerned about is if they make the same mistakes that they made with Lindgren and Primo in the past, where they call him up, kind of yo-yo up and down. He's backing up the other goalie. Like Fowler needs to play games. So if they're gonna call him up, Martin Saint Louis was very, very, cautious in how he explained it to the press today, just so that he's not putting too much pressure on Fowler. But guys, I would be shocked if Fowler isn't in net next game here. There's a reason they call him up to have that electroshock. So in the short term, guys, I have no problem with it. I have some concerns though about whether it's the right time to call him up, because it's a very dangerous game. If he comes in and plays well, then what? Like, okay, what kind of dynamic does that create now? Like, so how long do you keep him? And like, what is the dynamic there with Dobesh and Montembeault now? And and I don't know. It opens up a whole Pandora's box that we weren't expecting at this stage, right? I think everybody wasn't expecting that we would see I always want to call him Cam Fowler. Nobody really expected that we were going to see Jacob Fowler this early in the season. A little bit later in the show, guys, we're going to show you some comparisons of how normal is it and how likely is it that a 21-year-old goaltender with under 30 games pro experience could just jump into the NHL and be successful. Like, we're going to dig into that a bit more, but so that's to me, coach, that's what I kind of took from it. Makes sense. They're going on a two-game road trip here. So good call-ups. They make sense to me.
All right. A lot of people knock the door. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being with us tonight. Don't forget, please, to click on the like. If you don't mind, it'd be great. Chris said, dynamic don't matter. They need to find someone to stop the puck. Goalies are bottom 5 in every stat at this moment. Front goalies, Steve talk about this going to be hard for Fowler to perform. This is not going to be easy for him. A little bit concerned about this. He said Montembeault confidence is done. Yamo back in the house with Nicholas we have a lot of people from Sweden, Finland in the house tonight. Kevin from Boston. Welcome back, Kevin. Thanks for being with us. So try to pick up everybody here around. A lot of fun comments. And Mark said they could have still called Blair and sent down Davidson on that one. So
could have, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something. Because you're right, Marko. You're totally right that Owen Beck is probably a Jake Evans replacement, but in my opinion, I don't know that we've seen much of Davidson that would warrant keeping him at all costs. And Sammy Blake could really inject a little bit of toughness in the bottom 6 that we're sorely lacking, I would say.
I just want to ask you, Marko, what other choice does Montreal really have right now?
Well, I think that's probably not that's a rhetorical question, I think, more than an actual question. But the choice is that they could just, continue to ride them out there. So one thing that we haven't talked about, Coach, is, the coaching, the goaltending coaching. I don't know if you have it in our topics for later, but that's something that some people are talking about, that you maybe call up Marko. What's his last? Marko Mendicino. I can't remember his last name, but basically the goaltending coach for the Laval Rocket. Maybe it's time that they call him up. Maybe do a old switcheroo, because I was reading. I think it was Anthony Martineau was making a comment earlier on the Sick podcast, either today or yesterday, about what he's been observing, like Montembeault and Dobesh sliding out of their crease and losing their crease, sliding past their nets. That's not just something that's happening in the games. It's happening during practice too. So it's not just kind of like they're overwhelmed and, the play is so all over the place that they're forced to be too aggressive. Like, this is something structural that's happening with these goaltenders, right? So to answer the viewer's question, another option is if you need to make a dramatic change, the coaching for the goaltending guys. Like, we don't see a lot of mid-season coaching changes when it comes to power play coaches or goaltending coaches, but maybe that's something that Montreal should look at, because obviously whatever is happening with the goaltending on the big club is not working, but yet you see some pretty fundamental good play happening in Laval. So I don't know what you guys think. Like, would that be a crazy move for Montreal to kind of like just bring up Marko Meniciano or whatever his name is to work with the goalies with the big club?
Frank?
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I mean, I'm not, again, like I'm no goalie coach. To me, it's a little voodoo. I agree with you. Dobesh was sort of notorious for doing this, but yeah, Montalvo seems to be completely a different person. So I don't know if it's related to the goaltending coaches or if it's just, confidence completely shot up. I don't know exactly what's behind it, but as management, you have to investigate. You have to really dig and go scratch, much deeper than the surface. And if what you're gathering as intel is that, it's a lack of preparation, it's bad instructions, it's bad training, it's bad conditioning, then yeah, you have to find the culprit and right the wrongs.
Like, and Frank, you have an example, coach. You were talking about, I think, a while ago. Like the Islanders made a change as well, and we've seen some pretty good results there, coach. Like, what's your take there? Like, do you see Montreal doing something similar to what the Islanders did
during summer? Possible, not during season. I don't think so right now. The panic in Montreal is like, change the coach, change the goalie coach, change this and change the system, change this, and change everything. Like, at some point, like tonight, we have no coach anymore. Like, coach change the defense coach also. So at some point, we point every direction right now.
But I didn't point the question was, what else could you do? So if you didn't want to bring up Fowler, another thing you could do, and I'm not saying fire the existing Raymond, the existing coach, but maybe you just bring up Marko to consult for a while and just have a different voice for the goaltenders, right? Like, so again, it's just trying something different, trying to shake the cage a little bit, but something needs to change because, I see Steve saying like, why blame the goaltending coach as well? And you're seeing a pattern between the two goalies, right? Like, the big thing that we're seeing is that they're sliding past, like they're totally losing their net. So I don't know. Again, we're not experts, right? Like I'm not claiming that I'm one, but just as a layperson, you're just looking at kind of what's happening. And there are some kind of recurring themes between both guys that make you question if there's something there. So I didn't bring it up. Somebody asked the question, but that is another thing.
It's not against you at all. It's just for me. It just mentioned what the people I read for the last 24 hours since this morning. I read everything, and this is like, I think we need to be a bit more concentrate more than. I don't think this is a coaching style right now. It's more execution, but we can talk a little bit later about that. We have a couple of great comments left and right, and everybody bring their comments, everything like that. So it was a chance. I just want to get back over there. Fowler came where we need something, and that's 21, 19, 22. We see Luengo, Price. We see big goalie came in the NHL at young age, so it's not a big deal for me.
Hall of Fame. Those are two Hall of Fame goalies that you just mentioned, but okay.
But Fowler could become a Hall of Fame too, no?
Well, maybe. Like, I'm just saying, like you threw out two random examples. Two of them are Hall of Fame guys. One example,
I understand
you
can that. Again, he's not here for the rest of the year, right? He just came here, tried to patch up a hole right now and show what's going on around the team. So for me, this one, I don't have no problem. Engström, I have no problem with that part over there. Now, Owen Beck, I think it was maybe not him, but the situation, Jake Evans changed everything for the they have no choice because now Jake Haven could be out for a couple of games. So the trip they bring, I think, it's more a center versus a winger on that one. I can understand people said David Davidson and Sammy Blais. I think they are happy about Davidson. I don't think so. Davidson is bad right now. I don't think so. It's like he's the problem for the Montreal Canadiens. I think he's just. I don't think so. Sammy Blais would bring more at Jared Davidson, or the effect, maybe the experience as a hockey player. So I don't think this is a big problem for the call-up. So going to move on.
I don't think
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I don't think it's going to tilt the results either way, Davidson versus Blais. And it's more stylistic kind of minor things. But if Montreal wins or loses the next two games, it's not going to be because Davidson is there or Blais, right? But I get it. You can debate that, but it's not going to be a game changer.
Here we go.
No.
Montreal Canadiens, what happening there? Now Jake Haven out tomorrow. The new line out by Martin Saint-Louis today. Caulfield, Suzuki, Bolduc, Sakowski, Kapanen, Demidov, Anderson, Beck, et Tessier, Davidson, Villano, Galley. Why do you see that?
Yikes.
Like,
well, that's the reason, Coach, I did that headline with the sinking ship is if this is what Montreal is going to be writing with for the next, let's not forget here, guys, like the month of December, like until Christmas here is one of the busiest and most important times of the season, right? That's why, like, there's some people that were debating whether you spend assets to go get a guy like Philippe Danault if he's available. To me, like, again, depending what the cost is, right? To me, there's value in getting a guy like that because if you add in a Philippe Danault into this lineup, it fixes a lot of your problems. If you're not expecting him to be a second line center, but if you can put him on that third line instead of Beck, that's stable. And then when Evans is there, then you have Suzuki, Kapanen, Danault, and Evans. And Villano can then be the 13th forward, or even he can be a winger and be on the other side to take face-offs with Evans or whatever, right? So anyways, just looking at this lineup, again, like the big debate that you're going to hear, guys, is we know that having Slafkovsky on the top line, we know it's a proven combination. If you look at the analytics, they are top 5 lines in the NHL. They drive all the play, the chances, the shots for versus against, like they dominate all the key kind of like matchups when they're together. And it's a drastic drop off when you see Bolduc on that or on that Suzuki line. But you did see a lot of great things from Slav too, right? In terms of taking a little bit more leadership, carrying the puck more. Just with these injuries, I get it. Martin Saint-Louis does have to spread the love around. Frank, I don't know where you fall on that. Like, do you like the idea of just you have one line that works, right? So you just leave it and just that's the one thing that gives you a chance to win, or do you kind of like kind of strip it apart for parts and try to kind of fix some holes? Like, where do you fall on that whole philosophical question?
So I like the proven commodity. I like Slav on the first line. I know it works. And he's been, like, let's be honest, like he's been probably the best player in the past few games, like for the Habs on that first line. So I would not be angry at leaving Slav up there. That's perfectly fine for me. The problem that I see when I look at this lineup is, first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. There's at least 4 guys who have less than 50 games experience in the league, right? So it's still, the NHL is not a development league. It's a tough league to play in as a kid, as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. So there's going to be some shortcomings. Kapanen is not doing great defensively. He's been pitched as the two-way stalwart. If you look at the data underlying, this is not what we're getting from him. He's playing well. He's putting pucks in the net. Like, he's finding ways to contribute and be helpful, but he's not. He's got some en français on dit des croûtes à manger. He's got some crusts to eat. And also, I will say Bolduc's management has been quite baffling for me. Last game he was on the 4th line. Now he's on the 1st line. Like, what's up with that? I don't know if him and St. Louis is just not jiving? What's the situation here? But I
I don't know
don't
if
know
it's
why.
baffling based on the way he's playing. I don't know if you can say it's baffling. Like he's just been really, really undependable defensively, right? So as the coach, like it's just hard. They want to give him a chance to be up there, but he's had a really, really critical mistakes that directly kind of like And again, you can say the same thing about the whole Evans line, right? But that's probably why. So I don't know if it's about inconsistency right now. It's just they don't have a choice, right, to really try to do something. So I don't know if it's
Well,
inconsistency, but
well, to me, the biggest asset that this guy has is his wrister. We could agree with that.
yeah, this is
And
like his shot is attribute. Yeah.
he's a good forechecker.
If he could be more consistent with it, but he has the ability, like he can hit. I think he's okay. He's no slaff when it comes to kind of like winning puck battles and doing something with it. It's one thing just to get, and Coach and I have had this debate many times. I'm not a guy that just looks at the number of hits. I want to see like if you're separating a guy from a puck, and are you able to do something with it? Like strip a guy, win a puck battle, and then feed it free to pass to the slot, right? Like to me, that's what I look for. So he has that ability, but he hasn't shown me consistently that he's a very good board player. But he can be physical and he applies pressure, but he's no slack when it comes to that for sure.
And I agree with that. But where I'm getting at is I think he has a skill set that's more suited to complement a Kapanen Demidov line than a Veleno Davidson line. And to me, it's just I don't understand how you're trying to set him up for success by putting him on the fourth line. If you're sending a message, you're sending a message, fine. But like, why haven't we seen him play with Demidov, for example?
He's
To
not
me, is
dependable.
quite.
He's not dependable enough. Like you were just saying, right? Like Kapanen and Demidov,
Well,
they're
neither
holding
is
their
Kapanen.
own. Well, again, like I'd say Kapanen is a little bit more responsible. He has better hockey sense overall. But I think Demidov is getting there, right? But I just don't think Martin Saint-Louis sees the vision there, like to have those three guys together, and have them be a responsible line, right? So you can see here, like say what you want about Slav, right? But he can be very, very responsible defensively. Like he back checks like a crazy person. He wins his battles. He can be very conscientious. So I like the makeup. To me, Bud Zook, like he showed a couple things on the road with Suzuki and Caulfield. It's a creature of necessity at this stage. I don't think Bud Zook is an ideal fit there at all, right? But that's who they got. So I to me, based on what they have, I have no issues with how he's put the pieces together here. I think it's time to kind of break up Anderson and Galley. Even if Evans is going to be healthy, guys, that line is not working. If there wasn't all this news, that was going to be my main headline for today. The main thing I want to focus on is, can we move away from Evans, Gallagher, and Anderson? But we have bigger fish to fry with everything else going on. But so to me, I like that they're separating Anderson and Galley. You can see that right now Galley is being held together with glue and peanut butter and staples right now. Like he's not well. He's not his normal self, and it shows on the ice. So it's not perfect, guys.
Yeah.
It's not looking great, but I can see why he's put it together this way.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like the biggest thing is, sorry, Coach, go ahead.
It's like when you look about this, honestly, this is ugly. And whatever you want to change the coach, the assistant coach, the goalie coach, the defenseman coach, you want to change, bring Fowler, you want to change. I'm sorry, but this is the most this is half of the team is the most American Hockey League right now.
Guys, but see, Coach, this is where I disagree with you, man. Like, look at Pittsburgh, look at Boston, look at Tampa Bay just last night. You can have, like, injuries can't be an excuse. It just means you have to change the way that you play. Like, obviously, Montreal is not going to score as many goals as they did at the beginning of the year, but you just need to tighten things up and find ways to win. Look at Tampa last night; like they're missing half of their decor, and
I don't see Tampa Bay last night, Marco. I see Montreal Canadiens. I see two passoires dans net qui ne sont pas capables d'arrêter une. Je ne peux pas sacrer, là, mais une rondelle.
Oui, tu peux sacrer. Oui, tu peux
c'est
sacrer.
une rondelle. Ils ne sont pas capables d'arrêter les pucks. C'est ça qui est le problème. C'est pas que Tampa Bay. Laval Rocket a rabattu Montréal hier soir. Là. C'est à un moment donné, là, c'est les gardiens de but. Là. C'est les goalies à Montreal cannot stop the puck. That's it.
Okay.
You can change the system. You can change everything. All right?
So we agree.
But we cannot have a goalie cannot stop the puck right now. That's simple. That's the same thing happening with Edmonton. That's the same thing. Skinner, Picard cannot stop the puck. And Montreal right now, we cannot stop the puck. You can play with whatever you have. But right now we have guys like Villano. We have TC. We have Davidson, Beck. 4 players right there. Right? They should not play right now with the Montreal Canadiens. So at some point, the lineup you bring tomorrow, next week, you're already not there. And we have play right now at the top 6 guys. We have Budzik, we have Kapanen. Like, at some point, we are in the trouble right there. And we fact, like, we want to change the system. We want to do that. When it's not. It's just we don't have a really good lineup at this moment, and that's it.
Listen, you can't disagree with that. Go ahead.
That's a very good point. And sorry, but yeah, that's sort of the tail end of the rant that I started. So I think you're right. Like one of the biggest concern that we have is that we're trying to see this team as a successful team, where the construction of the team itself is not done. Like there was a lack at sea. It's still very much exposed, and it hasn't been fixed. And now there are players who could take faceoffs who are injured, so it puts a whole strain. And the bottom 6, there's a few guys who walked in Dvorak and Armia. Not that I miss them, but they haven't truly been replaced. They haven't really been replaced by equal or equivalent or better players.
Did we talk about that this summer, Frank?
We did, and I have no regrets. I'm much happier knowing that there's a hole that we could fill than being hampered down with Dvorak at 5 years. I'm not interested in that. So I understand that there are some growing pains if you're building a contender, which I still think they are building. I haven't wavered on that, but we look at this and we can only see that this is not the final product. There are a lot of question marks in the bottom 6, and the guys who are going to be your staples in your top 6 are 19. Demidov is what, 19, 20, 21. They're still very, very young.
So he just had his birthday. Yeah.
So the bottom 6 not being replenished is hurtful, because you get production from the first line for most of the year. Like, it's been very cool recently, but apart from them, like Gallagher and Anderson have regressed. They had a very decent year last year, but they've definitely regressed. Evans, same thing, regressed. And then you have a bunch of kids who are learning to play in this league. So you're not getting secondary scoring.
Yeah, I think the takeaway here is that it's not just one thing, right? Like, so there's like what we would say a confluence of things happening.
Super Chat.
Super Chat, $20. Back scored a goal of the game tonight. Hey, coaches, whatever the system does not work, Mark scored a goal every game.
Oh my God!
Thank you, Mark. Here we go. Welcome back. Mark Elliott also scored a goal the night at the Hockey National Show. We're going to get an assist for Nicholas Yamo. He played tonight with 2 European players. Mark Elliott. How about that? We have a storm right now here in Thailand. Like, it surprised me. It's rare. It's really rare it rain in December in Thailand. Like, It's a bit like an hurricane in January in Florida, but it's going on right now.
You need to take a break, coach, so you can go hide the sheep or the cows.
No,
Or...
it's all good. They are under roof, so they have no problem.
Okay.
They enjoy it. They don't like to be in the sun, by the way. So, look, it's almost 1 hour, guy. We are not behind, but we are not, did not go so far. So, we're going to move up with the game last night, honestly. I want to hear a little bit more what's going on last night again at Tampa Bay Lightning. So, going to get talk again more about what will happen the next couple of days ago. But before that, let's talk about the game. Here we go. Tampa Bay 6, Montreal 1 last night at the Hockey Nation. We did the game, and I want to give you a little bit more information. And the first 29 game of the season, 15 W, 14 loss, calculate the OT, whatever. And he gave 4 times 4 goal, 3 times 5 goal, 2 times 7 goal, and 2 times 6 goal, and 1 time 8 goal. That said, Montreal Canadiens won only to win at home in the last 9 games. Since November 9th, last on the 5-on-5 goal against and goal for. They are last in NHL. Goalie last night, .769, .786. NHL are 31st at .870. Defensemen struggling, defensive zone coverage. And you turn now to talk about what's happening last night. And I will start with Marko on that one.
I don't know, Coach. Are you going to force us to really relive last night too much? Like, Frank, you sent me this stat earlier on our chat. That was pretty shocking, right? Like, it's pretty shocking when you're literally last on for 5-on-5 goals for, but also against. Like, I think that really summarizes the month of November pretty clearly. So that's pretty shocking. Like, again, I don't want to kind of like deep dive too much into the game last night, guys. It's pretty simple. Like, Montreal, again, like what we've been seeing, decent start. When we say decent start, like the first 2 shifts were pretty good, and then completely big backbreaker there, with the first goal, really bad play by Struble, just not taking his man and being beat by Point. And Dobesh, say what you want. Like, I know it's not easy to have Brandon Point streaking in on you, but half the net was open there. Like, it's a right-hand shot, didn't really kind of play the shot really well. And then for the second time in 2 games, the second PP unit gets victimized at the very end, or for a shorthanded goal, or pretty much with Dobson not really making a good read, understanding that the player's about to come out. So not really encouraging from Dobson there. Like, again, like, I think we're just gonna have to learn with Dobson is you take the good and you take the bad, right? Like, the good is very good, but it's almost like worse than Matheson in the last couple of years, right? Like, there's just a couple of things that happened out there sometimes, and you're like, whoa, what was he doing there? But then there's another 5 to 6 times during the game where you're like, okay, I get it. He's bringing a lot of value, but I guess we're just gonna have to learn to live with that. But that was a backbreaker coming right after their power play. And then you have, then Dobesh starts to swim around a little bit on a couple goals. Veleno misses a clearing. Like, my take, guys, is it was just complete backbreaker. And I think you see this in teams when they're a little traumatized, right? And their confidence is a bit low, and their goaltending is, you get super deflated when you see your goaltender kind of let something in, and it just completely saws your legs in half. Like, it's just so hard to kind of feel motivated to go out and work your ass off, block shots, do all the things you need to do, because you're just concerned that he's going to let in a muffin at any given time, right? So that being said, you want to see a little bit more fight. I wasn't super impressed by seeing Anderson drop the gloves in the third period. That doesn't really do much for me. So listen, it's just one of those games. You just can't really evaluate it, but you can see parallels with some other things that we've seen. And I think we've talked about it at length. It's really goaltending at this stage that really is problematic.
Frank, it's 6-1. It's easy to point left and right, but I want to talk about the trends. Is coming all the time. The H period last night, the first 2 minutes, I believe I could be off by a couple of seconds, but you get a goal right there, and it's happened a lot last game again. The St. Louis Blues 2 goals the first second period again, and this was in 65 seconds. This is not like happening only like couple of games. It's been this way for the beginning of the season. This is the first thing. The second thing I would say too, we always gave a back-to-back goal at some point, like inside a couple of minutes. Again, back-to-back goal. That's another big problem. Montreal happening there. The preparation, the second period is another big problem. We are maybe the worst now in NHL on the goal differential second period. So I give you like 3 different things you can sharing with us. Just talking about the game, we know honestly what's happening. So give me a little bit more how you see that. Is it something you saw something Montreal is not ready, or do you have something's going on with the team about those problem they have?
Yeah, you look at you have the stats right here and they're appalling. Like you look at the number of games where they've given up so many goals. To me, what I see is a team that once they get like a goal or two behind, they know they're not climbing back and they sort of half give up, right? So we're not seeing those close games where, hey, it's okay, we're trailing by 2, doesn't matter, we'll get the saves later on, we can put 1 or 2 in the back of the net and we'll crawl back. Like we don't see a lot of that, at least in the last month, really. So I think you're right. I think you're right. Once the goals start coming in, like once there's one that comes in, immediately the confidence is shot and they sort of don't believe they could come back in a sense. So this is a little bit vibesy and lazy, but this is what it feels like from the observer, from what I see. And the other thing I would say is, it was very evident yesterday that the players could really come in, like Tampa Bay players could really come in and get the blue line. The defensemen were backing up, almost as if they were going to be, saying to themselves, like, the goaltenders are not stopping pucks, so we'll back up all the way and block shots, and this is our best bet. This is our best way to effectively prevent goals, right? So I don't know if that's a confidence in the goaltending issue or more like a defensive coach issues. I don't know what it is, but it was the contrast between the way defensemen were playing the blue line between Tampa Bay and Montreal yesterday was insane. Like it was so crazy.
I think you're onto something. There is a psychology to it, Frank, like where, like I said, right, like when you know that your goaltending is struggling, you just play on eggshells, right? And like you might back up and and everything else. So I think there's a lot to it there. I honestly don't think it's like some people might say that they give up, or like I don't think that that's what it is. I think it's just it's just overwhelmed, and like sometimes when you want to do too much, or if you're like especially when it's a man-to-man coverage, right? Like if you don't keep it simple, if you don't stick to the plan, you start moving around where you shouldn't, then that's when things just get off the rails, right? So to me, these are just examples of things getting off the rails. Like when you see goals, and one thing, coach, like one thing that you can point to for the beginning of periods is just lack of concentration. One thing that you can, so if we're talking about systems, this is not something I've heard a lot of people talk about, but I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. So I know a lot of people have been debating, the man-to-man hybrid system that Montreal has. One thing that people don't talk about as much, it's not that it's overly complicated for players to follow, but it's very taxing. It's really, really taxing. Like one of the core things is, you have, especially in the defensive zone, is you have to follow your guy around, right? And the way that Montreal plays a really aggressive forechecking style, St. Louis expects his players to be aggressive pretty much all over the ice. It's a very exhausting style of play. So maybe that's where things fall apart a little bit, is just, it's like some people say, well, Montreal, they just have too many young players to play a hybrid man-on-man and they don't understand it. It's not necessarily because they're young. It's just maybe with the condensed schedule, with all those things, it's just really hard for them to keep up that pace across a whole game. And when you get tired, you make like it affects your concentration. So maybe at the beginning of the game, you're just not concentrated. So I'm curious to see what you guys think there. Like, is it, kind of, it's not that whether the system is good or bad, but is it, or because the players can't do it? Just maybe it's very taxing. And with the injuries they have right now, they're finding it hard to kind of put it all together. What do you guys think?
For me, I think it's just because there's a big difference in playing man to man with, say, Jake Neighbors, and then the next game you're playing Nathan McKinnon, who turns the Jets on you. So I think there's that variability on how to play it that players sometimes are having trouble to adjust to. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of adjusting in between games, and even in games where, at the start of the game, like, you could get caught flat-footed a bit more than towards the end of the game. So there's a bit of that, in my opinion, because, we talk about the system, and it's, no one was saying anything about the system in the first 15 games of the season, right? So because they were winning and they were finding ways to be successful with the same system. So there's a bit of that to me. There's a bit of, it's a tough system to play, but it's not like Montreal has reinvented the wheel and Marty St. Louis is the only guy who's teaching that. There's other teams who play a very similar hybrid, system that, they are successful with. So it can work. So to me, there's a bit of adjustment that need to be done within the game, from young and older players. It's not a young player thing, in my opinion. So there's that. And then I'd also say, like, the adjustments sometimes in the offensive zone have been lackluster from the coaching. So that's sort of answering your question as well, Coach, a little bit on, what else, could be the reason for that. But, the game against Colorado was very evident to me, where they were dumping the puck the whole time and could not get to it behind the net. They were dumping and then effectively returning to their zone because they were just not touching the puck anyway. So, and they just kept the whole strategy the whole game. And so I think you have to have a bit more adjustments in game from the coaching staffs that I think we're not seeing enough of.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's a fair question too, right? Like, as the coach, Martin Saint-Louis might have a certain vision or philosophy on how he wants his teams to play, and he might be right that the future of the NHL is a hybrid, like that's how he wants them to play. Like, it's a hybrid man-to-man system where they, when the players go to the top of the zone, then they do go to kind of like a zone, like it's a hybrid, right? But sometimes you have to adapt what you're doing based on the personnel that you have, right? So if Martin Saint-Louis looked at the lineup that he had at the beginning of the year, and you're effectively losing, or right now you're missing an entire line with Newhook, with Doc, and with Laine, and now with Evans, you're missing like 4 players out of your top 9. So you have to kind of look at. So I guess maybe that's something that some fans are, and you can agree or disagree, right? They're maybe not saying that Martin Saint-Louis needs to be fired, but maybe some people are a little bit critical that maybe he needs to, in the short term. It's kind of like if you're winning in a game, do you adjust kind of like, are you as aggressive in your forecheck if you're up in the game, right? Like it's adjusting the way that you're playing based on the personnel that you have. So I can see why people would be critical of that. And I understand that the vision that St. Louis has, and like, listen, like we all trust in the management team's vision for how the team wants to play. But I think it's fair to ask that question. Like, is it time now to adjust it based on the personnel that they have? Coach, like, I don't know, like, do you think they should move away? I know it's a hot button topic here, but it's framed in a different way here. It's not to say that the hybrid system doesn't work and it's trash and but is it a legitimate question to be asking? Should St. Louis change it based on the personnel that he has right now, which is nowhere near what he thought he would have at the beginning of the season.
Good question. Laval just now Toronto just tied the game 4-4 with 1 minute to go remaining at 6-on-5 a rebound. And they tied the game 4-4 after the Laval lead 4-2. And that's happening there. Look, me, I don't see that. I think if you learn early the system, man-to-man, and the system they're going to play in the future at this zone right now, and the next 3 years, that thing will be great because now they know what to do. It's the time to learning. You have Demidov, Sikorsky, Suzuki, Caulfield. This is what I see that. If you go back on this zone, and then next year, or the next 2 years, you have to do it again. You have to return to go on the hybrid because this is the way to play hockey in the next 5 years. But now you go back, you just regress again because you have to learn again. I don't see me a disadvantage about that. It's the execution of the players. That's simple. The execution of the players are not there until then. And the system, Marko, will be better when we put the puck in the net and when we stop the puck by the goalie. So
and again,
for me, I don't see a big problem. Of course, you understand the situation. Like right now, with the lineup I have, you have to collapse. You have to be tight. You have to protect yourself. A little bit what they did against Toronto, right? The Toronto game is a great example of what they have to do right now. And don't change everything, but let's fight a bit more. I think the best thing you said for me is more about Martin Saint-Louis need to adjust himself with on the fly. When I said that, it's like, you know what? After one period, this line does not work. We missed something. Boom, there. We have it's an accumulation of different things at the end of the day right now. And not the right things. I don't think so. You can blame someone. You can blame this only because of this. You have many things going on right now.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like I'm not in the camp that I blame this all on Martin Saint-Louis. That's for sure. I guess ultimately another thing, coach, is if they are going to play this system, it's really critical. Like Montreal, to me, like similar to the Carolina Hurricanes, it's built on a model that you're rolling your 4 lines, right? It's not going to work, and you're going to put way too much stress on Suzuki and Caulfield. If you like. At this stage, you just have to trust players like Kapanen. We're talking earlier about why is Bolduc not up there. Like, even if they're making mistakes at this stage, like with what you have, you just can't there might be certain stages of the game maybe where you kind of manage the game that way. But in terms of like, if you start playing Suzuki 22, 24 minutes every night, it's not going to end well. And you might be putting Nick Suzuki's Ironman streak at risk there too, because it's a lot to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely about that. We're going to do like we do the Wednesday, and we get 9:40. So let's go about the check. Is it checkpoint?
Yeah. So we're gonna
we're gonna
do yeah. So guys, like we were talking about at the beginning of the year, we took a look at where we thought Montreal would need to be in order to be competitive, right? And we established certain things, certain kind of key performance indicators. And the first one that, coach, that you're going to bring up is goals for, right? So goals per game for. So what we were hoping for them, if you look, the target that we wanted was for them to be somewhere around 3.2 goals per game. And that should bring them, based on last year's performance, that would rank them somewhere in the top 10 in the NHL, right? So, and as you can see here on the grid here, like depending on kind of where you're at, with where Montreal is now at 3,104, we're in the blue section, which is in the mix. Now, earlier in the season, I think just somewhere in October and November, we were killing it. Like Montreal was almost at 3.4. They were like in the elite section. So the goals have dried up a little bit, but it's still there, right? Like it's still in the mix. I think they're scoring enough goals. But like Frank was pointing out, in the 5-on-5 in the month of November, it's not there. Like the goals have dried up quite a bit. So, but overall, from a macro perspective for the whole season, they're still trending. But you have to look at the most recent play here. and this is something that's definitely kind of going down, right? So, so if you look at last year, still a huge improvement though. So they had 79 goals for 272. So if we're just looking at total progression year over year, I think it's still a good story. It's again, there's some concern here because the goals have dried up, like we talked about. But overall for the season, this is the least concerning thing I think that we're worried about. Frank, would you agree? Like, it's not as concerning as kind of what we're seeing on some other fronts.
Well, it depends where they go from there because, as you said, they were in the elite part a month ago, and now they're in the blue, meaning the last month they're in the red. So, so which team is this team? Is it like last year where they're just going to have hot streak and cold streaks, and it's just going to sort of rudder their way to the playoffs that way, or are they collapsing and there's no way, and they're not going to climb back up? So. Yeah. The first month is incredible. The second month is terrible. So where is the truth in between?
Well, that's why we look at the number from an aggregate perspective, right? So we did estimates at the beginning of the season. So we're pretty confident that if they can finish in the top 10 for goals for, that puts them in a good position, right? So now, Coach, if we move to the next slide for goals against, this is where we really start to see some really problematic things, right? So what we're looking for here, guys, as an optimum was we're looking for 2.98, so under 3 goals per game. So, I think when we last checked in, they were 19th in the NHL so which wasn't that bad. But now they're 30th in the NHL. And we're in the yellow section, which I call you better score a lot. You better outscore your problems. And then in red, so the sections, if you can't read it, so red is no playoffs. Yellow section is you better score a lot of goals to outscore your problems. Light green is you're in contending. And then if you're in the dark green in terms of goals against, you're almost a sure thing to make the playoffs. So right now, we're not on that. We're on the low end of yellow here, guys. Like we're almost in the red, where if they're not going to be able to clean things up here in terms of goals against, and we talked about there's it's not just one magic bullet. There is shoddy defensive plays, like we talked about, lots of mistakes in coverage, but I think we all agree that goaltending is the overlying issue that's aggravating it more than anything, right? So this is a huge concern, guys. Like if they're not able to, again, like we don't expect them to be one of the top teams in the league. We were just looking for them to be top 15. If they can be top 10 goals for, top 15 goals against, that's a really good recipe for them to be a playoff team. So I don't know, Frank, like we just talked about, they're not outscoring their problems. So something's got to give here.
Yeah, and we'll see if Fowler is the electroshock that gets that done because they're not getting the saves. We talked about many reasons why they're not winning games, but you have to have saves here and there. So maybe that's the first building block to a little bit of a better goal against average going forward.
Yeah. So, Coach, before we move on, did you want to kind of add anything for goals for and goals against? I think. And just for 24-25, the goals against, still not too bad, right? But anything to add before we move on to 5-on-5? And
well, I'll just give you the 5-on-5 goal shot right there last season and this year. Minus 26, now we have minus 14.
Yeah. So one thing we look at, guys, is, again, for a target for a 5-on-5, let me just pull that up here because I have all the objectives here. So for 5-on-5, we wanted them to be top 15 in the NHL, which would be to be around a plus 17, plus 7 for goal differential 5-on-5. So that's not the case right now. So we're minus 14. So kind of like flip that number around for 5-on-5 goal differential. So that's really problematic again for 5-on-5 play. This is we decided to really focus on this one. PLW, somebody that mentioned that a lot in our chat last year. So we decided to kind of key in on this for this season. So again, they were trending really positively here 5-on-5. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, last time we did our check-in, they were probably somewhere around +6 or +7 5-on-5. So again, huge problem here, Frank, in terms of 5-on-5 play.
Yep, absolutely. Not a lot going on after that first line, to be honest. And
Yeah.
even they tried.
we lost we lost Frank.
I'm here. So
So this,
yeah, so even that first line has cooled down. So
yeah. So this one is interesting, guys. So this is not one that we looked at before, but it's kind of to kind of loop into our conversation about the goaltending, right? So if you look at the overall goal differential that Montreal has, so it's -14 right now, like we talked about, right? Now, if you look at advanced stats here, the expected goal differential is actually -5.24. So they should, based and the way that they track this is they look at the amount of goals that should have been scored against Montreal, like which goals should have went in based on the high danger chance, or like there's different people that look at the goals that should have been scored. So based on, if you look at, if these were like, AI playing each other or whatever, then they should technically be, they should be up by almost like 9 goals in terms of differential. So to me, what that says is that, so yeah, they would still be around, -5 goal differential, but if they were getting average goaltending, they would be 8 goals better in terms of goal differential. So to me, that really does make a strong case that a goaltending is really exasperating the problem even more than it is. And there's some other stats that I could have shown you guys too, right? Like if you look at the environment that Montreal is creating for the goaltenders, it's not amazing, but it's more kind of like mid. It's like in that 15 to 17 range across the NHL. But then for goals against, we're like almost at the bottom now. So there's a gap there. So what this tells me, and I don't know if people in the chat and if you guys can tell me from an eye test perspective, to me it makes sense. Like, yes, it's not perfect for Montreal, and there's some lapses like we just saw in the game yesterday, right? Like there's some missed coverages and everything else. But if you get I think it's normal to get a big save once in a while, and Montreal's just not getting that. So to me, this matches the eye test and really supports everything that we've been talking about throughout the whole show, which is, yes, there needs to be some tightening, in terms of in the defensive zone, and they need to tighten things up. But what's really kind of leaking right now is the goaltending. And to finish off here,
I'll say,
yeah, sorry,
Marco,
go ahead, Frank.
and I'll
Yeah.
say one thing too. Like one thing to consider is, as we've seen before, like they've lost a number of games by a huge margin, right? So that doesn't do great for your goal against numbers, right? So whether you lose by three goals or 7 goals doesn't really make a difference, as for the game in itself, but it will make a difference on your goal average, your goal against average. So
Yeah.
that's also one
I
thing
see.
to consider.
I see a comment here from Guy too here where there's the luck hasn't been there. I think that averages out through a whole season, Guy, right? Like there's going to be breaks that, like if you look at the game yesterday, Dobesh, like there was a completely open net, and I forget who it was, but he shot it off, like he shot the puck on the post like in an empty net. So that was a very positive in a 6-1 game. And there's a couple of other games where Dobesh was swimming around where there could have been even more goals against, but the players missed an open net, hit a post. Like, so, it's all like, yes, there's some unlucky things like against St. Louis, you have Carrier, and then you have like Veleno that kind of like tripped, and there's a breakaway, like, or there's a 2-on-1 there for Shen. Like there are some unlucky breaks, but it's hard to quantify those things. And at the end of the season, I think they all kind of balance out. So, but it's, I get you, that I get what you're saying there, Guy, that definitely, they've definitely had some bad breaks over some of those games as well. So to wrap up kind of like the core areas here, guys, another key thing that we look at is just the performance of the special teams, right? So we want, like, to be in the mix, you want them to be in that combined score of 102 and 105. So what we do is we add up the power play percentage and the PK percentage. And what you want to see is them see a certain overall score, right? Now, even though we're in the range, We are at 103. What I don't like about it is that it's really disproportionate, right? Like they're number 4 in the NHL for PP, but then they're 28th in the NHL for PK. So they're getting to that number. But man, if the power play even starts to kind of like slow down a little bit, it's really going to be problematic, right? So they, again, what we're looking for, what we really wanted is we wanted Montreal to be top 10 in the power play. And we wanted them to be, last year, I believe they finished 11th. Is either 9th or 11th on the PK coach. I can't remember. Either 9th or 11th last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what we want this year, we understood that they might drop a little bit because of losing players like we talked about, Dvorak and Armia, and Savard, we don't talk about enough, I think, in terms of the impact there. But so we expected them to dip a little bit, but we can't have them dip all the way to 28th, guys. That's just, but does this have a lot to do with goaltending as well, right? So that's a tough one to quantify, Frank. Do you agree? Like it's good that they're in this range here, but 77% on the PK, I don't know if that's going to do it.
No, it's not going to do it. And you're right. Like I don't want to seem like the whole collapse is due to goaltending. It's not. But yeah, you need to have, better goal average against. You need to have better defensive players. I think Carrier last year was phenomenal. This year struggled a bit more. So that will affect the PK. Like these are sort of things like that will affect your success rate in the different special units. So some players like Jake Evans, last year he was scoring goals on the PK. This year, he's on the ice for goals against. So there's a change in personnel. You've said it. There's also a little bit of goaltending issues on top of that, and there's confidence issues. So it can really spitball right from there. But I think you're right. Like this is an area that they can fix. Because if you're looking at the whole picture, like we've painted this very doom and gloom picture, but to me there are some very like quick items to be addressed, like the PK, that you could really focus and hone. And if you fix that, you're going to fix the number of goals you allow in a game, and you're going to fix the number of chances you get because you're not spending time in your zone, and then you're going to fix et cetera, et cetera. So there are a few building blocks here and there, like the PK, that you could look at and say like, okay, let's start with this, and once we fix this, we'll just move on and find some success again. So again, like it's been very, very sad doom and gloom, but ultimately,
well,
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think, Frank, normally I would agree with you, right? Like, and I'm not like I think I'm a pretty I try to be realistic, right? But overall pretty positive, right? I think what's really kind of like, and we mentioned it here, but can't emphasize it enough here, that the big difference year over year again is injuries, right? Like Montreal, for the most part, played almost with a perfectly healthy lineup compared to last year. They did have some misses, but nothing like now, right? Like you can't underestimate, in my view, like the impact that the absence of Newhook has had. Like he was playing some really solid hockey for them, and with the team that Montreal has right now, you just can't. They just weren't able to lose a piece like that. And I heard, I think it was your former or your colleague that you've worked with before, Marko D'Amico, Frank, that mentioned recently that, and it's a good point, right? Like Montreal going into the summer, it's very similar to what, and Coach, you've mentioned it just recently, is that it's a very similar mistake that this management team made this year versus last year. Like we all remember them deciding to trade Kovacevic, right? With the idea that, okay, we're pretty confident that either Barron, Reinbacher, somebody's gonna make the team, so we're okay with there's it's a crowded blue line, so we're going to trade for Kovacevic. It doesn't work out. They're forced to eventually trade for Carrier, and then the season turns around once they address that, right? This summer, that's what I was I was warning about, that with letting somebody like Dvorak go or Mia go, is, in my view, the philosophy should be just you need to sign contracts and have that veteran presence in the lineup. And if one of your young players comes in and takes a spot, wins a spot in the lineup, wonderful. You can always figure out a way to move out a player, as long as you're not signing players to kind of untradeable deals. You can make those movements later, right? But for the second year in a row, I think Montreal's put a little too much faith in the fact that their young players are going to come in and be able to have an impact immediately in the lineup. And that's a really big thing from year over year.
So two things I will say about this, and I don't know, Coach, if I'm overextending the segment.
No,
Let me
it's
know if
good.
that's
All good.
So two things I will say about this. So I think the injury thing is a little bit overplayed because last year Laney was hurt for most of the season. Kirby Doc missed some time last season. Caden Goulet missed some time last season. And I believe New Hook as well missed some time last season. So it
No,
might
it's
be
pretty healthy.
happening. It was last year. So it was 2 years ago then. Okay, never mind. But
Yeah.
ultimately, like I think the same guys were sort of in and out of the lineup for similar extended periods of time. Maybe not all at once. So that's a big difference, I would say.
And,
But
but you
we
also
still
had, but you had Dvorak and Armia, right? So if you basically take away Dvorak and Armia, plus you lose those guys, then you're already the NHL's youngest team. Now you're
but you're
very,
you
very
know,
young.
but you're adding Dobson and Demidov, and you know, it kind of works like that. But that's the first thing. So to me, like the injury thing, like I agree, it's a factor for sure. But the fact is, and I think that's more what you were saying, I think that's more the real issue is they really haven't addressed the bottom six. You know, they signed him some randos, let's call him, like in Villeno and Blais, and one of them is playing Laval. So, and now Texier and whatever. Okay. So that's to me, like, that's the biggest issue. They haven't addressed the bottom six. But I will say I'm still okay with that in the sense that they're giving Kapanen some ice time. They're giving now Owen Beck some ice time because I truly believe that it's a better way because this year I don't know that internally the expectations were as high as we fans might have. I think they're still very much aware that this is still a learning curve year for the youth movement to really settle in. So I have no issues that they haven't replaced Armia and Dvorak with, you know, older veterans that are committed to bad contracts. I much prefer having younger guys that learn here, although I still think there is a path for younger guys that they could trade for to fill in now positions. So I wouldn't be angry if they traded, say, a Kapanen or a Beck to get like a proven 25, 26, 27-year-old that can play in your bottom six kind of guy rather than watch the boat sink, for example.
Well, we could go on here, Coach. I don't know how much time we have, right? But ultimately, we know that the market for centers right now is completely just nothing, right? Like it's just really, really impossible to. Yeah, everybody's looking for centers. So again, like for me, I still think there's a lot of value in Montreal being in the mix, making the playoffs, giving their core players another opportunity to play in the playoffs. I think it's important for part of their development. Like I don't think you can just let the ship sink. I think it's important for Ken Hughes to go out again. Like right now, the hot one is Phil Danault, right? But I just again, depending on the price, right? Like you're not going to trade like Michael Hage and a pick for Philip Danault or something like that, right? But if you're trading Owen Beck and a third or something like, or even just Owen Beck one-on-one, I think that's something I would look at, like, for in the short term, especially because I think Beck kind of is a little bit made redundant, I think now by Kapanen. I think Kapanen has won that battle. Not to say that Beck won't develop into, an NHL player. But again, I place a lot of value on Montreal making the playoffs this year. I do think it's important for them to do that. And and like I said, right now, December, it's something you can't wait for super long, guys. Remember Martin Saint-Louis always talks about aggressive patience. I think they need a little bit of aggressive patience right now because the month of December is going to be an absolute murderer's row. And then with Jake Evans being away, like if Jake Evans is going to be away for any extended period of time, or if he's not playing, if he's playing injured, then that's an issue. Entertop, I did see your point from last night about what you do with New Hook. To me, that's simple. Like when Newhook comes back, which will only be in April, by the way, like if they make the playoffs. He's not going to come back before that. To me, I would love to see a line of Danault, Newhook, and Anderson as a third line. To me, that makes perfect sense. And then you keep Kapanen with Demidov. So, to me, if you slip in Danault, then you can easily have Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Caulfield. You keep Kapanen with Demidov, and then you can kind of figure out what you're going to put there. If they want to go get like another top 6 forward to put there for the time being, that's fine. And then I like a line of Danault. I think it'd be a very responsible line. You'd have like your bottom 6 would transform completely if you're adding Phil Danault, right? You got Phil Danault, Newhook, Anderson. Then when Evans comes back, you have Gallagher with Veleno or whoever you want to put down there, right? So to me, it fits well, and as long as the price is okay, like in terms of cost of acquisition.
Is he? How many years left on his contract? Then
he only has one more year after. He has one more year after this year, and he's yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like a bottom 6 guy, like it could work, but yeah, it's not going to transform your franchise. There are some issues.
No, it's not going to transform it, but I think it would really stabilize it, similar to what Carrier did last year. You bring in Danault, immediately he's a 200-foot matchup center that could, that's played against McDavid for the last 4 or 5 playoffs and has played really well. But we know his play really well here. Your PK automatically becomes much, much deeper. We've already addressed kind of where they're at with the PK. And again, like in a pinch, he can play in your top 6. I don't think that's a long-term solution. But to me, I would leave Kapanen and Demidov they seem to have like a nice thing going. So I would leave that. So maybe, and we talked about coach a couple weeks ago. If you want to leave Slav with Kapanen and Demidov on that second line, when Kirby Dach comes back, we know there's a historical of Kirby Dach having a lot of success with Suzuki. So maybe he comes in and slides in and provides a similar role to what Slafkovsky was doing on that first line. So all of a sudden you have a really balanced lineup if you're able to kind of put all that together. So I know people kind of look at Danault like he hasn't scored a lot of goals, but you don't really need him to score goals, guys. Same thing with Ryan O'Reilly. The only difference between Ryan O'Reilly and Phil Danault is skating, right? Like I'm not sure where O'Reilly is. Like I think he's an amazing player and his hockey IQ is insane, his compete level. But the only thing that worries me there is a little bit is his skating. I think Danault is a much better skater. But either one I think would work really well in that spot.
The problem is to get Danault.
How much? So let's talk about that then, guys. Like, and let's hear people in the chat. What do you think is a reasonable cost of acquisition for Philippe Danault? What do you think the LA Kings are realistically looking for? And what would you be willing to give up for either? Like, we know that Ryan O'Reilly, Barry Trotz is insane. He's asking for a blue chip prospect plus a first round draft pick. If that's his real asking price, then I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is going anywhere because I don't think anybody's going to pay that. But what's your realistic price point that you'd be willing to pay for Philippe Danault?
The King will ask Alex Newhook.
Okay.
And Adam Engström.
Interesting. Okay, I don't think I would do that. Nope.
I don't say I would make that trade. I just said that if you want to see what I would trade me, if you want to go that direction, my trade. Then Frank after that you can talk. But I would trade. I would ask Philippe Danault a warrant for jail for Josh Anderson, a 3rd round pick, and Jadon Strobel.
You wonder if LA would be interested in a player like Arbor Xhekaj.
Well, any team will take Arbor Xhekaj for sure. Yeah. But I will not trade Arbor Xhekaj.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, I don't know what they'd be asking for, to be honest, because like you said, he has very little points this year and he still has $6 million a year. So are we sure it's not even like a cap dump and they're willing to sort of let him go?
But that's what I put Josh Anderson, Frank about that. That's my the view you talk about, that's the reason I put him there for Josh Anderson. They have the same similar. It's just he fixed a hole you don't have in Montreal if you want to get Josh Anderson out on that
I think
one.
if you're trading Josh Anderson, you're creating another hole. Like, you can say what you want about Josh Anderson not being consistent, but we don't have another Josh Anderson that can play physical at least sometimes. So I'm not sure I would make that move either. To me, I'm not worried about the cap hit for Danault at all. Like, the reason why people are talking about it is that Byfield basically, because Danault was playing second line center and you have Kopitar there, right? So, but Byfield has jumped over him, right? So they're going to be looking for a third line center, and they know that Kopitar is his last season as well, right? So to me, Beck makes sense from a medium term for them. I think that's a good bet for them. And like, the reason that Beck is expendable is I think Kapanen has passed him on the org chart in terms of depth on the org chart. So to me, that's kind of where I would go.
Yeah, so I agree with that. Kapanen, I think Beck could make a lot of sense, but I wonder if they hold on to Beck, to be honest, because maybe it's just me, but I feel like Kapanen is, because he's playing with Demidov, which is not where you want him to play in a year or two, right? He's just like the temporary solution right now, I would say. So in my opinion, I think probably the best thing to do if you're Montreal is to sell high on Kapanen, like as soon as this summer, because he's going for what, 15, 20 goals as a rookie.
You're not a big believer.
You're not.
So there's a couple times you've mentioned Cap. So I guess you're not a really huge believer in Kapanen, eh?
No, I think he's getting decent stats because he's playing with Demidov, but I don't see him as more than a fourth or third line center. So he's not going to play with Demidovs, and he's not going to get 15, 20 goals a season. And therefore, while he's there and he's getting those numbers because there's no one else to play with Demidov, yeah, I would sell high. that's me. But
Marko,
maybe I'll...
I'm sorry if I cut you, Frank. If you want to add something, you can go. Then I will ask my question after.
No, that's okay. I was. We're sort of starting a parallel discussion to the Danault discussion. So
yeah, Kapanen or Beck, I think both of them can stay with Montreal Canadiens. So which one you will keep?
I'm okay with either as long as they're in the right chair, which is probably third or fourth line center, in my opinion. But you already have Jake Evans. That, to me, is going to be your fourth line center. So I probably have a little bit more trust in Kapanen over Beck to be like an effective third line center. That said, there's also a very strong scenario where Kirby Dach is your third line centerman. And
I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's. I would be in favor. Like, I like Kirby Dach, but I see him more as a winger for sure. So I hope he can be part of Montreal's top nine, moving forward here. With you can debate which line he would be on, but I just don't see him playing center. But again, long term, I agree. Like, I don't see Kapanen. Again, you have to think Montreal is going to have balanced attack, right? So if Kapanen can get you, can be on that line with Demidov and get you like 50 points, 50 points. And then you have another third line center, and, Demidov is the one driving mostly that line. It could, again, I think ideally we would like to see a left-handed center, second line center. There's just none available, guys. It's just not there. Right. So, they're going to have to try to continue to look for one, in replacement of finding that guy. I think, you just try to, we absolutely need to add a real left-handed center, though. Doesn't matter which line. Joe Veleno right now, it's a bit misleading. We haven't talked about it much. His face-off percentage is exceeding expectation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he should be out there when Montreal's up by a goal or at the end of the, on a defensive zone face-off. Just because you can win a face-off, winning the face-off means nothing if you go and you lose the battle on the board 10 seconds later either, right? So just because you're winning a face-off doesn't mean automatically you're an amazing defensive center either. So Montreal absolutely needs to get a left-handed center, whether it's somebody that's going to play on the second line with Demidov or on the third line to solidify having a real shutdown center there that can still provide a bit of offense. But they need a real left-handed guy, and we're not reinventing the wheel here. Everybody knows that, but I don't know, Coach. What else have we got on the menu here? I think I spiraled us out of.
No, that's okay. But I want to finish this part first of all. Both of you, I don't have a chance to have both at the same time. Look, with the time you both of you talking, I was okay. Okay, Kapanen, Doc, Newhook, third line. Demidov with Zarovsky, and then you have to put Michael Edge on the picture, and then you have Jake Evan at the bottom. So at some point, I don't think we have enough space on that one. That's a really interesting game. Mammoth and the Florida Panthers now 3-2. Gwender, the second goal of the game. Bobrovsky cannot stop anything, by the way. But my point is do you think that player will be there out in the next 3 years, or do you see some things good? Who can be out of that lineup and make a trade, whatever it is? Because are you confident to have Doc with Kapanen and Newhook on your third line?
Yeah, I could see that. Like, to me, the real question is, are either Hayes or Zarovsky really a center? Like, if you're hoping that one out of those two guys can be part of your top six, then I think that's good. And if you could use, I think you only really need one of those two guys for your top six, and then the other one you can kind of implicate into a move for that second line center that you want, right? So I think you should only really hope for one of those guys. And again, like, I like Zarovsky a lot. I like Hayes too. We'll have to see kind of how it works out. But to me, Hayes, I see him more as like a Jordan Kyrou winger kind of guy. Right-hand shot, really good skater, but more of a perimeter kind of guy with a good shot and good hands. Zarovsky to me is, I still need to see him more. But he's just somebody that I think he might beat Demidov's like rookie scoring record in the KHL right now. It's pretty crazy. So long answer short here, Coach. I'm not sure, but I don't see both Hayes and Zarovsky being in Montreal's top six as they're contending.
We're going to move on the couple of things. First of all, for all the people guys talking about the goalie, the defensive zone, and the coaching staff and everything like that, right? I just want to remember everybody is Montreal Canadiens have an average of 2 goals in the last 6 games per game. Montreal Canadiens did not score any goal more at 3 goals per game 2 times in the last 6 games. 2-2, 3-2, 3-1 for Montreal Canadiens. So you have also the 5-on-5 problem. That's another big problem for the Montreal. We because we focus on the goalies and everything like that. I just want to mention that. But we call up Jacob Fowler. Jacob Fowler should be the starter tomorrow. There will be the tradition in Montreal Canadiens, a new rookie best goaltenders coming with Montreal. Play always against Pittsburgh Penguins. Ken Dryden, Carey Price, and of course Fowler tomorrow. All of them win their game against Pittsburgh. And then Patrick Roy start his first W. It was against the Pittsburgh Penguins also at the same time. So it looked like you have a kind of trend between Pittsburgh and the Montreal Canadiens goaltender. But Fowler start tomorrow. And Marko did some kind of the Stutzy case, and I want the people to respond about that. How nervous are you with Jacob Fowler between the pipe? And Frank, you can comment about that. So Marko, I'm going to bring this, and then you're going to go. We have 2 sections on your exercise. So you can now talk about this, and Frank, you can add after that.
Yeah, so I want to preface this, guys, by saying, listen, I'm super excited, to see. I have nothing against Jacob Fowler coming in, playing a couple games here, right? But I just want to kind of give a little bit of context, because we hear people sometimes talk about, Jacob Fowler coming in and being a savior right now. I think, Coach, even on your thumbnail, you had the word savior underneath them. I was like, oh, geez, I don't know. That's a lot of pressure. But so just so that we understand what this looks like usually. Like, how long does it take for goalies to really establish themselves in the NHL, right? So we kind of looked at some specific examples of goalies that have kind of come up in the last year, kind of in the last maybe couple of years, right? So you have Jake Ottinger, right? So he really only was able to get a full season of 40 games played in 2022 with Dallas, right? And so he was 23 when that happened, right? So he had a certain number. I don't have it in front of me anymore, but he had a certain number of pro games in the AHL. But he was 23 years old when he really had his first full season as a starter in the NHL, right? So, and to me, Jake Ottinger is one of the best scenarios. Like, he's one of the good stories, like one of the goalies that was able to kind of like jump in and be pretty successful right away. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with the fact that Dallas is a damn good team, right? Now, if you could look Lucas Dostal in Anaheim. So again, his first season with at least 40 games was in 23-24 with the Ducks. And he was also 23 years old. You start to kind of see a pattern here with some of these goaltenders, right? If we move on to the next one here, Coach, we looked at some other goaltenders that are coming in as well. I think we have some numbers for Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight's a bit of a different story, right? So we know that he actually played very few games in the AHL, similar to Ottinger, jumped in the NHL pretty quick, but still even really hasn't had like a full 40 game season in the NHL. We know that he had he had a problem with OCD and was with the player assistance program for a while to deal with that, right? But he's only really establishing himself. He'll probably play more than 40 games this year. But he's 24 years old, guys. So again, a little bit above the average. Yaroslav Askarov, another really young, promising goalie. And don't forget, all these goalies, guys, these are like mostly first-round draft picks. And, Fowler was, like a third-round draft pick, right? So these are all blue-chip goalies here that we're talking about. Askarov, 23 years old, and he hasn't even really played 40 games yet in the NHL, playing with San Jose right now. He's probably going to hit that. Wallstead, he's really having his breakout season. Everybody's been really impressed with how he's been playing recently. Guess what? 23 years old. So what's the pattern here? Right now, Jacob Fowler is 21 years old. He has under 30 games of pro experience and only had those 2 seasons, those couple of seasons in Boston, right? So listen, I'm not saying it's impossible that Jacob Fowler either this year or even next year, guys. So for those of you who are thinking, okay, I don't expect him to come in and save the Canadiens this season, but I'm penciling him as my starter next year. Just saying, even next year, as having him as a starter is not likely, according to some of the averages that we see around the NHL. So what does that mean for Montreal, right? Like we're still maybe thinking about 2 to 3 years where we can confidently say that Jacob Fowler, if things go well, if he develops the way that we think he's going to, is likely going to be ready to play a starting role, play like over 55, 60 games or something like that for the Montreal Canadiens. So the reason we bring this up is to, again, he's going to play his first game probably tomorrow. We're all going to be excited. I'm super excited to see it. But we have to kind of temper our expectations and understand kind of how these things work, right? So couple questions to you, Frank and Coach. I'm assuming you're excited, like to see him play and everything. But what do you think Montreal's plan here should be if he's going to be on average and only be ready to play around 23? What does Montreal do for the next 2 seasons here with their goaltending if they can't really expect him to come in and be a savior like some people are thinking?
Frank?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like the plan with Fowler for sure is not to say, "Hey kid, here are the keys. You're the driver now, and good luck to one of the other 2, and and this is it." Obviously, I think it's really more like they need to shake things up. We've talked about this at length. There's some issues between the pipes, so let's bring someone from the outside. Throw him a couple games, see how the team reacts, how the team responds. Ultimately, I don't think, we have any indication that can't use is someone who panics and throws people too early and preemptively where they shouldn't be. So I'm very, very much convinced that this is only a few games, and then he gets back to Laval and finishes the season there. But it's a good try. It's a good test. And ultimately, you never know what happens down the road. Let's say a few months from now, they're in the playoff picture and a goalie goes down. Like, that this is a young player that can maybe step in if the attempt is successful here. So that's to me how you approach the situation if you can't use. The plan is probably to have him start the year in Laval next year as well, and then at some point come in and replace either Dobesh or Montembeault. That's to me the plan. Like that hasn't changed. That was what I would have told you last summer or last year. That said, and I think that's the question you're raising is what if he's super hot?
What I think what I'm asking is if he turns out to be similar to all these other blue chip goalies that I mentioned, and that the average seems to be that they're ready to be starters in the NHL around 23, 24 years old. If he turns out to be like that, which will still, like, it's still a good news story. I'm not saying it's bad. If Fowler turns out to be a starting goalie in the NHL and he's ready to be that when he's 23, that's still an amazing draft pick for the Montreal Canadiens, right? I'm just saying for him to be a starter next year, he would be kind of like in the outliers of those goaltenders and be like exceeding kind of like the average, right? So if you know that he's only going to be ready by his 23, what are you doing for the next couple of years if things don't right, if the ship isn't get righted here with Montembeault and Dobesh is my question, right?
Right.
How patient can you be?
Right. I think you have to be patient. I think they're more committed to the long-term success of Fowler than putting some plasters here. They could try Kakkonen that they have right now. The other thing too is they could trade one of their goalies and try to swap things up with another team that has a struggling goaltender, maybe just a change of scenery, that kind of stuff. Don't forget Montembeault. How did we get him in the first place? He was a waiver pickup, so you can pick up a goaltender on the waivers and have some success with that. So there are many options. If you're both sheltering Fowler and replacing and moving on from Dobesh and or Montembeault, there are options there. But I think the plan will be to have Fowler finish in Laval, start in Laval next year, come up at some point during the season as a backup, and then we'll see.
And so I want to address a couple of points here in the chat that I saw come up. So somebody was saying Dobesh is the starter now, and Fowler should be the backup. Like, guys, this, in my opinion, that's the worst thing that could happen. Like we talked about before, we've seen this issue with Primo and you don't want Fowler just to kind of be there and yo-yo in the lineup and just like he needs to be a starter. He needs to play games. So if that's the intention, I would not be in favor of that. And Mon Capitaine, just your comment about that we can't predict the future. No, that's what we're saying is we're forecasting, right? So we're not predicting. Again, Fowler, like you said, Fowler could turn out to be absolutely dominant, steal the crease, and never look back. It's a possibility. I'm just what we're putting forward is what is the kind of like typical path for a blue chip goalie. And again, you could argue whether Fowler is a blue chip goalie prospect. Like on his performance, he is, but he was drafted later on, right? He wasn't drafted in the first round or anything like that. So we're not trying to predict the future. We're just putting context so that we can kind of share with you guys what the typical path is for one of these goaltenders so that we can manage our expectations.
It's usually that way too. Like it doesn't have to be like a blue chip prospect in the sense that they're a top 5 pick. You look at some guys like Connor Hellebuck, who is a 5th round pick, and that's what they did. They sent him 1 year in the minors after his 2 years of college or whatever, and then 1 year in the minors, and then during the following year they eased him into the lineup, and he was the starter by 23. So this is you're right. This is usually the path for high achieving goaltenders, whether they're drafted in the first or fifth round.
So, Coach, I think we're getting close to our end here. So, I think this is a good place to end, right? Like, I think out of everything that's happening, I think that's what everybody's going to be looking forward to seeing tomorrow, right? So, is he going to be in the lineup? What does he look like?
He has to
Sometimes you see
start tomorrow. He has to be there tomorrow or Saturday again. The New York Rangers. He's on the road for 2 games. That's not, that should be there. I think this is only a short term. I don't see like a long term from him. But to answer to you guys for next season, Proborski, Marechek, Bronsois, Fedorov, Anderson, Skinner, Dalbot, Nikinkovic, Engström, Quick, Vanecek, Urson, Momesso, Comesso, Kakonen, Tarazov, Picard, Murray, Riddich, and the rest is RFA, Prosvezdov. So you have a lot of if you're looking from the outside, this is the kind of goaltender you can get in return if you want to next season. But look, I think we're not there yet. I think it's, Are we finished with this way? That's remind me a little bit more what happened with Samsonov a couple of years ago with Toronto. They let him go for 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know how long he was out. They told him, like, we're going to send you to American Hockey League, but you stay home. Don't go to American Hockey League. He never played any game over there. And it should be the same thing with Montembeault. Until holidays, all right, send him home and out of the team, just read books. I don't know. But at least you restart everything, and then you can come back. I still believe he can come back about this. One of the team a bit more fixable. When I said at the beginning of the show, Frank, and I said just stop the puck. My point of view is not about only the goaltender, but we need them to perform better. And at the end of the day, guys, Montreal win 15 games. Yeah, something's going on. It's not only the goalies. It's fun categories. Everything is cannot be worse. So Pittsburgh tomorrow, Rangers just left 4-0 against the Chicago. And if you look about this, Chicago, Frank, gave 15 goals on the weekend. I apologize. They gave 13 goals and they scored 1 goal on the weekend. And now they just stopped Rangers with 0 goal tonight. So what he did, they restart everything. But I will be honest with you guys, because I write for Chicago, so I follow them more. They forecheck. This forecheck constantly, guys. They put the defenseman and the glass all the time. They skate hard and they go there. That's what we don't see from Montreal right now. So they have to figure out something else. And the best defenseman is when the goalie make a save. Carey Price did it for 15 years with the Montreal Canadiens. We've been spoiled in Montreal. Frank, you never see Dryden, maybe Patrick Roy at that time. But we've been really, really spoiled by the goaltender. So it's hard. I think this is one position in the sport of really the most difficult in Montreal, and any other sport is to be the goalie in Montreal. And the reaction defense tonight and the chat was amazing. It's fun proposition. We're not going to fix it. It's Martin's saying we have to fix it. And I want to let you both before you leave the last word for tonight.
I was just going to say, let's hope that Luc Lafortune is wrong, que Fowler s'en va à l'abattoir. On espère que ce n'est pas le cas, Luc. C'est un peu extrême comme visuel, mais let's hope that we see this sometimes, Coach, like when you have a rookie goalie that comes in, the team hopefully will kind of like really tighten things up. So maybe there's a good residual effect there, but I'm excited to see him. Like my scouting report really quick on Jacob Fowler, really calm compared to very different from Dobesh, right? Fowler, very measured, very calm. The only thing that concerns me about him is sometimes like he has problems picking up pucks in traffic. So sometimes he'll see pucks kind of go over his shoulder from the point. He's not able, he's not a huge guy, guys. Like, just so you know, he's like what, 6'2", 6'1.5", right? So that's the one thing to look out for, but very calm, very poised. So it should be a very big difference from what we've been seeing in net recently, especially with Dobesh, which is very active and scrambly. So I'm excited to see it, and hopefully Montreal can turn things around starting tomorrow.
Frank, your expectation, not only tomorrow, my Frank. I want you to give me 2 answers. One for Fowler, where you're going to be, how long you'll be here, and then your expectation for the next 3 games. Pittsburgh, Rangers, Edmonton.
I think they win 2 out of 3. I think Fowler plays 2 out of 3, and I think he's there pretty much until the Christmas break. I think he then gets sent back, but he's going to be there for the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to give a little rest to Montembeault, as some of you suggested. So that's probably what I would do. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out, but that's what I would hope and think they could do.
Awesome. On that one, Frank, we want to wish you, first of all, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and your family and your little one. And now, congratulations. You're growing again, the family, for an extra one. And we want to wish you good luck for all of you. And then very pleasure to work with you. And hopefully we're going to see you again very soon. And I can wait to, again, to see you next time. Marko, always a pleasure to work with you. Always great to be with us tonight also. And I can wait to see you, Marko, maybe in the next couple of days. Who knows what happened. But both of you, thanks again for your great work tonight. A great conversation. And this is about... it's about fun opinion, and we respect each other. We're not expert. We just love to talk about hockey. That's the beauty of what we do here at the hockey. So, both of you, wish you an amazing, great night. I will see you next time, my friend. And Marko, maybe Sunday or not Sunday, maybe next week, next Wednesday.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Frank. All the best, man. We'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, boys. And look forward to the juniors. Maybe Hage will be a center.
Here we go.
We'll see. That'll be fun.
All right. Thanks so much, both of you. It was, guys, Marko Larrabee and Frank directly for the Hockey Nation Live Show tonight at the Hump Day for the Montreal Canadiens show. And I can wait to see you tomorrow night, guys, 7 o'clock. Montreal Beton on the ice again. The Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then we're going to talk about the game tomorrow night. So see me tomorrow night for the play-by-play. We want to thank Mark Elliott for the super goal tonight. We want to thank Moderder and Artap and Run with Kings with us tonight. We want to thank all of you being a part of the show tonight with a great conversation and the great likes you drop to us. Without you, this would be impossible. The next couple of days, we wish you an amazing, great time with your family and your preparation of your holidays. And don't forget, we're going to celebrate holidays here at the Hockey Nation Live Show around the last week, the second week, around the December 22nd, 23rd. We're going to talk about all the year of the 2025. So don't miss it, everybody. And the only reason we get better is because in our top is... You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. The Mammoth score tied the game 3-3 against the Florida Panthers. Until then, my friend, we wish you an amazing, great night. Be ready for tomorrow. And be well, be healthy. Find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the second half of what? 2025. Jake McBain scored a goal for the Mammoth. Was it great to see you, my friend P.S. show up late. PLW, like King Settle, good game to watch. Some player that could help the Habs. Of course, Luciano, thanks again to be with us tonight. And I can wait to see all of you tonight, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. I know the music is over, but it was fun tonight. I enjoyed to work with Marko and Frank and on our tap. And that's it. That's all. Luc Laportune, bonne nuit, mon ami. Luc Laportune est dans le gel. Il gèle pas mal. And RJ Calabro at the news and update. Thanks so much. Cash fan, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And everybody, don't forget to click on the like before you leave the building. And, of course, booyah. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock p.m. Tonight, Luciano.